Thank you, Mr. President. The engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 224 eliminates the requirement that employers post wage bonds in West Virginia. The technical aspects of how this works in the bill are as follows. It repeals 3 sections of the West Virginia Code. The sections repealed are all located in Chapter 21 of the Code, and the sections repealed are Article 5, Sections 14, 14A, and 16, and it amends Chapter 21, Article 5, Section 15 of the Code, and we had extensive debate about this, discussion on when it was on amendment stage on Friday. One thing we didn't talk about in the bill that I will mention is that in the section that is preserved and amended, it does create an enhanced penalty for any company that willfully and fraudulently disposes of or relocates assets with the intent to deprive employees of wages, fringe benefits, makes that a felony and makes it up to a $60,000 fine, imprisonment in a correctional facility if not 1 or more than 3 years or both. That wasn't part of our discussions or debate on the bill on Friday. Passage of this bill will put West Virginia in line with Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, surrounding states of ours that do not require wage bonds. I don't know that there's much I can add to it at this point in the way of explanation. Would reserve the right to close debate. I'd be happy to try to answer questions. Urge passage of the bill.
Further discussion? Further discussion? The junior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Had all weekend to think about this bill, and you know, the more you dig into the bill, the more you start finding out what the bill's about and how it affects individuals and companies and also in other states. There is 19 other states that have a similar wage bond requirement for contractors, including our state, Kentucky. Kentucky is just about equal with ours. You know, simply put, we're not out of line with the rest of the country. We're not. In Nevada, a bond is required for all construction companies, regardless of the number of years of our operation in their state. Georgia requires a bond for out-of-state contractors. Maybe it's something we need to think about. To post for every job within the state, not just one bond, but every job that they have. Just to the south of us, we have North Carolina, a state that's growing and prospering. Contractors have to be able to show that they have over $150,000 of working capital before they could even go into business. You know, we had arguments in our committee that posting a bond was burdensome on new businesses. And yes, that may be true to some. But remember, these bonds are only for construction and mining industries. As a matter of fact, 87% of the wage bond money, not the bond, wage bond money is from surety bonds. 2% of wage bond money comes from cash. The average bond on the cash is just $7,000. So in the wage bond, I don't see where it frees up cash. Instead, we'll eliminate a revenue stream for surety companies and the protection for the workers. Over the past 10 years, under this law, West Virginia workers obtained more than, as I spoke on Friday, more than $1.1 million of wages and benefits. Since July 1, 2015, $370,000 in unpaid wages and benefits have been paid to workers here in West Virginia. We're going to remove this. We're going to clog our court systems up, possibly. I don't know. You know, there was an argument made about the DOL not investigating the wage bonds. Fact is, since July 1, 2015, as I mentioned Friday, 6,600 investigations and over 500 violations. If we don't think the mechanism is working, let's look at it. Let's do something with it. But let's don't get rid of it. We heard in the committee meetings that West Virginia needs to open its doors to other businesses. And I could not agree more. We do. But remember, as I said before, these bonds are for construction and the mining industry only. On Friday, our Judiciary Chair, the Senator from Morgan, highly respect him, brought me into his office and sat down and we talked. He showed me the ropes and the dopes of the Senate, and I really appreciate him taking the time to sit down and talk with me. But he made an impassioned speech about expanding the wage bond to all employees, and I wish we could, but we don't need to. Because the other businesses, they're not as vulnerable as what construction and mining is. The extraction industry, it happens time and time again. As a matter of fact, we don't go without at least some time during the week when our congressional delegation isn't talking about how they are fighting for coal miners' benefits. Yet here we are attempting to make it harder for them to collect their wages and benefits. Rather than coming together to debate the merits of the law, I think about whether there are important changes that we can make. You know, this bill went to 2 committees. We only heard from the ones that want to keep it. I didn't hear from any of them that wanted to get rid of it. We could amend this bill and protect the workers and maybe ease the burden on some of the employers. We could amend the law to apply more narrowly to out-of-state contractors. But we didn't. Mr. President, as I see these comments that I have made, it may not make a single change for anyone to vote against this bill. But I implore everybody in this chamber to look inside your heart and ask yourself, why did you want to serve here in the Senate? Was it politics? Or was it to have a difficult discussion on the issues our state is confronting and try our very best to do what is best for the state as a whole? As we progress through this session, I hope we are ready to put partisan politics aside and work together to help our state. And may we make the best decision that is in the best interest of every family. I hope that when we cast this vote, that we'll vote against this, and let's bring it back and sit down and discuss it, and bring everybody to the table, and come up with something that will work. Like I said, I checked around this weekend. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, all of them are looking to put some kind of a wage collection law in place. This industry is vulnerable. As I said before on Friday, 38% of the construction companies that open up in 5 years, those are the only ones that are open. 62% are gone. Think about it. Look in your heart and do what's best for every West Virginia family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? Further discussion? The senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. My colleague from Putnam really laid out what this bill's about. And you know what it's about here we go again. Here we go with a bill in search of a problem. As the senator said, we didn't have one company representative, not one person get up and say that the wage bond was hurting their ability to do business in West Virginia. But what is clear is that we're talking about people's wages, and I'm not going to appeal to your hearts because I've done that before and it just doesn't do me any good. But think about if you didn't get your paycheck from the Senate, the pittance that we get, think how that would affect your pocketbook when you go home. Now we're talking about the wages of working people, protects a lousy 4 weeks. If you have a $10,000 payroll in 4 weeks, $2 on 100 costs you a lousy $200. If you have a $100,000 payroll in 4 weeks, it'd be $2,000. But for the entire time of the bond. Now imagine if you've got a $100,000 payroll in 4 weeks and you can't come up with $2,000 to make the bond. You know, you heard the senator say, and we missed this in committee because nobody could answer it, that all our surrounding states have some other scheme to protect workers' wages. What's better, to put up a $2,000 bond or to maintain $150,000 in working capital? I would say the burden's greater on the latter. Of course, Kentucky's just like us, because like us, they're an energy state. Ohio's not an energy state. Pennsylvania's not an energy state. Maryland's not an energy state. And I guarantee you that Virginia's not an energy state. They're a pork barrel state. But we rely on energy. And we're talking about the money that people need to put food on their table, to get their kids to a doctor. The construction and mining industries are notorious in the 80s of skipping out on workers' wages. Just in the last 21 months, almost $400,000 in workers' wages have been taken out of the wage bonds. Workers have no chance to recover from a bankrupt company, zero. And an out-of-state company, I wouldn't give them 10%. I can guarantee you a few lawyers would take those cases to try to chase down an out-of-state employer and try to obtain any money for any judgment that they get. Folks, these are real wages. With no complaints, we're simply taking away from our employees, taking away from West Virginia citizens. Construction, sure. You heard the numbers from the senator from Putnam. But you know, we talk about helping our coal miners in here every day. We talk about the federal regulation that's hurting our coal miners. We talk about the environmental regulation that's hurting our coal miners, and here we are taking money out of coal miners' pockets. We profess we care so much about them. We need to do it not just when it's to our political advantage. We need to actually stay up for them. Stand up for them and stand up for their families. And we need to vote this bill down. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? Further discussion before I recognize the senator from Morgan? The senator from Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I opened a service mines in Virginia about 14 months ago. And, you know, for the first 10 to 12 months, you know, we're breaking even or losing money. And the capital investment we had to put into that mines was quite substantial. And I put most of it in. And, of course, in Virginia, we didn't have to put up a wage bond. And if you think about it, you take 25 employees that we have in Virginia, and you multiply that by, you make around $25 an hour, times 40 hours a week. That's it's around $25,000 a week in payroll. Times 4 is $100,000. Okay? If you take FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workers' comp on top of that, you're adding another 30%. So you take the 30 plus the additional 15, you add 45% to that. That puts it up to a $145,000 wage bond. That's not including fringe benefits. So for those of you who don't think that's a barrier to entry, you're wrong. Because that would have probably been the difference on whether or not I invested in this mines or I didn't. So that mines got open. It hires 25 jobs, 25 employees who have great jobs, benefits, health insurance, dental insurance, and 401k. Now, you can say it's easy to get a surety bond, a letter of credit and all that, but you've got to have A1 credit to get that stuff. If you don't, you can't get it and you're putting up cash. So what I think this does, this helps the little guy. The guy that wants to start a little construction company to build houses. The guy that's barely getting by. And, you know, he don't have the money to put up a wage bond. So to me, the wage bond helps people that have money. It doesn't help the little guy. So at the end of the day, I strongly support this and urge passage.
The senator from Harrison seek recognition.
I do, Mr. President. Would the gentleman from Raleigh yield?
The senator yield. The senator does yield.
I just did a quick calculation on the $145,000 that you just gave us in a hypothetical. The wage bond on that would be $2,900. Isn't that correct?
It's
$2 per hundred. That's $20 per thousand. $2 per hundred. I did the
if I get the
calculation.
bond. If I get the bond, is that what you're saying?
That would be the way. That would be the
If you
amount
can
of
get
the
a bond. If you can get a bond.
Doesn't
If
seem
you
like a
can,
lot.
but you got to have good credit.
Doesn't seem like a lot because that would be $400,000 in wages over the entire year. Certainly, they're doing a job and have to have the working capital, where $2,900 could not possibly affect their ability to
If you can get a wage bond. I mean, if you can get a surety bond. Correct.
90% of our wage bonds are surety bonds. That means 90% of the companies that have to post them can get surety bonds. I just got those numbers from the DOL. So it must not be too hard to get them if 90% of our companies that come in here are getting them, right?
Well, I guess not.
Yeah, thank you, Thank you, Senator.
Further discussion? The senator from Logan.
The senator from Raleigh yield.
The senator from Raleigh yield.
Yes.
The senator
Yes.
does yield. Senator
Thank you, Senator. I'm from Logan County, West Virginia, and I'm loaded with people that are laid off coal miners. So I'm just wanting to get with you and get all the information possible, because surely when this passes and we do away with wage bonds, you're going to be bringing that mine from Virginia back to West Virginia, right? Because I'd like to know, because I want to get my people to come and maybe work at your mine.
Well, I'm actually looking at a couple mines here in West Virginia. So
Airborne.
yeah.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, man.
Further discussion? Further discussion. The senator from Morgan wish to close debate? Senator from Morgan, recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I've enjoyed the debate on Friday and again today on this important question, particularly the thoughtful remarks by all of our colleagues who have concern or opposition to this. And I have great admiration and respect for their opinions. I think everything that the senator from Putnam said about what the wage bond program is accurate. I think it's absolutely accurate. I think he said 19 states, and I think that's right. West Virginia is in a minority of states that have this as a requirement. As mentioned earlier, 3 of our 4 surrounding states do not require a wage bond. Just so we're clear, there are remedies. There is recourse apart from wage bonds for people who are not paid. Bankruptcies were mentioned. Wages are given a priority in the bankruptcy code, albeit it's below tax obligations, but it's above general creditors. So if a company goes bankrupt and hasn't paid its employees, they have a right to a claim in bankruptcy court, and it receives priority over their other creditors. The anecdote offered by the senator from Raleigh, I think, is illustrative of our situation here. I agree with the gentleman from Raleigh County. We have to remove entry barriers. Barriers that prevent, discourage entry into all of our businesses in West Virginia. Now, I would submit to the bodies, and I don't have data on this, but I would submit I believe the rate of failure for restaurants is probably higher than it is for mining or construction. We don't have a requirement there, nor should we. Nor should we. Because while restaurants, fail at sometimes very high rates, those that make it and succeed are vital parts of our economy. The numbers we have from the Division of Labor, in my opinion, the data show that this is not an effective program for the citizens of West Virginia, for the very people that this program is designed to help and protect. Let me go over a few of those numbers again, if I may. We were told by the Division of Labor that there are 4,435 active wage bonds in West Virginia, an aggregate of almost $204 million. Now, the data that we were given is slightly different, if I understood the senator from Harrison correctly. We're told that surety bonds represent just a little over 70% of those bonds. So the other 40% are divided among cash deposits, certificates of deposit, and letters of credit that employers have had to obtain from financial institutions, for which there is cost, oftentimes collateral. Notwithstanding the fact that the Division of Labor holds over $200 million of penal amount of wage bonds, over the last 10 years, there have only been 40 draws and forfeitures, totaling a little over $1 million in a 10-year period. That's 4 per year. We're tying up capital and money of 4,400 employers in West Virginia to offset 4 per year, an average of 4 per year. It is not rational, and I believe it is an impediment to the growth and fostering and encouragement of the opening of businesses in West Virginia. I believe, and it's really the only reason to support this bill, I believe that if we pass this bill and eliminate this requirement and remove this barrier to entry in construction and mining, that it will have a positive effect. I think we will see more entry into the market and thereby create the jobs for our citizens that we don't have now. Clearly, what we're doing now in West Virginia is not working. It has not been working. So this is one of a number of measures which is designed to model ourselves after states that are having greater success in economic growth and job creation. I urge passage of this bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 21 yeas, 12 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.